everybody. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Chris Yi.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
And I'm Wendy Yi.
And today we're taking a look at Turing Machine. Now, this is a game based thematically on the original computer and the designer of the computer, Alan Turing. Alan?
Yeah, I believe
Alan
that's correct,
Turing,
yes.
In fact, this is all about looking through holes, and you can see the box is full of holes.
Ooh.
And one thing that it does that I like is it tells you on the side if you put the lid on correctly.
That is a huge boon, 10 out of 10 for me.
That should be on every
It's
game
like the
box.
most important thing ever.
I don't know why I
That
like
should become
that.
industry
I can do this and be like,
standard.
what?
Yes, there
All
you go.
right.
Thanks for coming to the Dice Tower.
If you don't like logic, you can stop the review right now because this is a logic game.
It's a 100% logic game. I don't think there's anything else to it.
It's 110% logic. Think about that.
That's
Tom
illogical.
loves when you say 100%, 10% of anything.
That always irritates me. All right, well, Chris shows how to play it.
Here's an example setup of Turing Machine. Every player is going to have a piece of paper that they're going to use to write down some information on. They'll also have a player screen that they will use to hide that sheet of paper behind, and this kind of gives you a round structure and how the game works. The point of Turing Machine is that you are trying to correctly ascertain a 3-digit code. So the blue is always the first digit, yellow is the second, and purple is the third digit. So the answer at the end of this might be 442, for example, or 145. The way that you do that is you will guess a sequence each round. Each round you will pick 3 of these numbers here, 3 of these cards. So if I picked 1, 2, 3, for example, I'm going to take these various punch cards and overlay them. As I overlay them, you'll see that they will always create exactly one box that is available. I can use this information to test against these verifiers, as they're called over here. The verifier has 2 parts. The first part is this card, which is chosen out of a deck of 48 of them per the setup of the game. And this will tell you a bit of information about the overall sequence. So for example, this one will tell you whether the blue number is less than 3, equal to 3, or greater than 3. Per the setup, it'll also have one of these cards, which is an answer card, basically. And you see there's a binary. There's either incorrect with the X's or a correct with the green check marks. To increase the variety from game to game, there's a gigantic stack of these, so you never have to play the same setup twice. So if I take this proposed code, this proposed solution right here, 1, 2, 3, no, not a solution, but the sequence I'm proposing for this first round, I will test this. Now this is to see, is the blue number less than, equal to, or greater than 3? Because my blue number in this code is 1, which is less than 3, and I got an X, this is telling me that the blue is not less than 3. I can go to my sheet here and show, hey, this failed test A, so I'll write an X there, and I know now that it cannot be 2 nor 1, it has to be one of these other ones. I can write additional notes down here if I need to. Next, I would like to take the same sequence, because I can do up to 3 of these in a single round, and I'm going to test and look at this one here. Is the purple number even or odd? Well, my purple here is 3, which is an odd number, and I got an X, so I know that purple cannot be an odd number. It has to be an even number. So I can come back here and make notes of this, that the B test was failed, and so purple can't be 5, nor 3, nor 1. And now, I'm going to take this same test. I can stop early, or I can do one more verification. And I'm going to take advantage of this first round and do as many as I can to get as much information as I can. This one here tests which color is the smallest, which is smaller than the other 2 numbers. So because of that, my blue number here is the smallest, and I got a check mark, which means this is correct. The blue is smaller than the yellow and the purple digits. So I'm going to take this information here, I got the check mark, and I know that blue has to be smallest. That's under test C. So blue, smallest. And I'm going to write terribly just for this overview. So now that I have this information, at the end of each round, and every player is doing this simultaneously, every player will stick their hands into the middle, and they will, on the count of 3, either thumbs up if they think they know the solution, or thumbs down if they're not ready and they need to run another round of tests. So in this case, everybody in, and then thumbs down, so we're not ready to propose a solution. Because once you propose a solution at the end of a round, if you are wrong, you are out of the game at that point. At this point, we'll put these cards back, and then you'll run another series of tests. And so maybe, for example, well, I know that the blue has to be at least 3, so I'm going to run 3. I know purple has to be even and larger than this one, so I'll run this. And I'm going to run the 5 here, the yellow 5. So 3, 5, 4 leaves this solution here. So is this one correct? I could use a verification test to check 3. So the blue number is equal to 3. That's correct. And this last test over here shows me how many evens and odds are there. Are there more evens or odd digits? And so I see here, hey, I have 2 odds and 1 even. There are more odds than even digits. So I think I have the code, and I'm going to propose the solution 354. Everyone at the end of the round, I could say, I'm not going to do a third test. At the end of the round, people fingers in, I'm ready, and someone else isn't. If I'm the only person that gets it correct, then I win this round. If multiple people thumbs up and say they're ready to guess it, the winner is the person who used the fewest tests. Now, one thing that I want to note about this game is that in the rulebook there are 20 puzzles in here. This was not one of them. There are only 20, but there are links to further puzzles. So what you just saw was me on my phone here playing against an easy code. You can go back to the website, which is still in beta under construction at the moment, and you can see that there are different ways that you can play. You can just play, and it'll set up a game with a different combination of these cards and different solution cards. You can do a daily challenge, and you can create a custom game even. So you can play a harder one, where each test here is going to have 2 different pieces of information. That would be a bad example. 2 different pieces of information that you test against at the same time. You could play it on the extreme difficulty, where you don't know which solution card goes to which of these verifiers. You can play with easy, standard, or hard cards, because these later number cards are much more difficult. The easy ones say, hey, is yellow less than, equal to, or greater than 4? Later cards might say things like this. How many ones, let me focus up, how many 1s or 4s are in the code? Or this verifies if one specific color is greater than, less than, or equal to a different specific color, but it doesn't tell you which one. Lastly, you can play with 4, 5, or 6 verifiers around the table. You can play the solo or cooperative, and that's just a look at how you play Turing Machine.
So I have mixed feelings on this game.
Do you want to start with that? You had that little like oof sound.
Oh, I don't mind, but I mean,
okay.
I can do it again. I mean,
Oh, okay.
that's me expressing. It's an emoji.
Okay.
It's a verbal emoji.
It sounds like you're about to swear.
Oh.
Is that emoji the? Okay.
Oh, I'm always amused when people think I swear. Anyway, I have mixed feelings on this game, in a couple things, because I guess we can talk about the logic part of it. The logic part of this is brilliant, to me. The way that you put out all those different things and figure it out makes my brain work in circles and stuff that I think is a much deeper, more difficult, but for me ultimately satisfying logic puzzle than any other of these types of games, like Code 777, whatever. You know, Mastermind, baloney. Turing Machine's logic is one of the most complex I've ever played in a board game.
It is beyond my comprehension of how they made this. Like, when I think about how this all works, and I'm like, I don't comprehend the level of brain power it took to make.
It's astounding is the word that I would use for it, because I don't comprehend it. I know that there's a lot of logic and calculation that went into just the physical design of how it's all going to work out, which I think makes it a very nice homage. The game is called Turing Machine, and I know some people have said, like, well, the Turing Machine wasn't an actual machine, it was an AI process and all this stuff. I think that all of the thought that went into I know the machine is not technically the physicality of it, but I think all of that went into making the logic work, making the punch cards work, is a nice homage to computer engineering, to all of that stuff. I think that it's amazing.
I guess I have some mixed feelings in the sense that I think it's amazing that it does work. I don't even try to understand how it works, but I'm very clear on how I feel about the game as an experience.
Well, let me ask you, so I actually think I do understand how it works. But I think it's just because I think it's you can brute force calculate every card, yes or no.
How much of the design do we think was done by, and I'm being very serious with this, how much of the design do we think was done by human beings, and how much of the design for this was done by computers?
Like it was programmed by humans and processed by computers?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think maybe that's right. But I want to know how hard you all thought it was. This is not a judgment on your intelligence.
No, this is getting to the meat of my feelings for this game, because I think it is. It's a judging of a particular type of intelligence. I've found, and I've played logic puzzles. I took a logic course, at college. This game does not work for me. On a fundamental level, this is not how my brain works. And I want to be very clear that my score, everything that I say about this is going to be coming from the framework as I know there are other people out there who have brains that work similarly to mine. And I think they're going to have similar experiences with this game than I do.
Oh,
Sure.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean,
yeah.
I can tell that just by reading over it.
Right.
It definitely makes your brain kind of work in a different direction than most people use it.
So I think in answer to your, what was your exact question?
How hard do you think the game is?
How hard do I think it is? So I made tiny errors the first 3 times that I played this. And I got wrong answers and I messed up. And I don't necessarily think that was hard. It just was a level of detail-orientedness that I didn't expect in this game. Like I didn't expect that I would misread whether a card was a positive or negative. Like I had it lined up, but for somehow things were off and I misread. So I don't know if it's hard, so to speak, but there's definitely, if you don't like all that detailed orientedness, I don't think that you'll like.
Are you talking about the components? Like the components weren't working the way you expected?
I don't know what happened, but multiple times I got wrong information when I tested it once and then I tested the exact same thing again, I got right information. So I think that's a Wendy error.
I think because that happened to me once and I realized you really have to square up the cards. You overlay the 3 and you put against the test. And if it is not perfectly squared up, you could see through the window, especially at an angle, the wrong box.
The wrong answer.
But once you square it up, you're set.
It's all right. So I didn't feel like this game was hard. It has levels. Like there's easy and there's hard, and I've only played easy so far.
Hard is hard. Just to clarify,
easy,
I don't care who you
hard
are.
is hard. But I felt like easy was very doable. I just had a lot of those moments where I was like, oh, what did I do wrong? Because it was clearly me.
I think this game speaks to me. I think I'm in the opposite position of Mike, where I really enjoy just this type of logic puzzle. A game that we also have differing opinions on is that Shipwreck Arcana, numbers-based logic, inputs and if-ands and exceptions and stuff like that. I like that a lot, and I think that this has a really great introductory level. It has several that use easy cards, that use easy logic things, and have 4 sequences that you have to test against. And then I played several times ramped up. Play with two different logic tests per A, per B, per C, and I tried.
Until you've done that, Mike, you haven't played it.
Right.
Well, then I'm never playing the game. Let me put it to you that way, then.
It becomes ridiculous to the point that it took me 11, 12 rounds just to get one of the harder ones. I thought, I'm not sure I'm doing that again anytime soon, but for me and the way that I think, this is not hard per se, but you can increase the challenge.
Yeah, I actually really like this type of thinking. I do this sort of logic puzzle for fun. I mean, this is very similar. If you've ever seen those books of logic puzzles, it uses a lot of the similar thinking. It does make Shipwreck Arcana look like child's play, honestly. I mean, and that's not a slight on Shipwreck Arcana. It's just a different level. And you could play this on easy. For me, my preferred level currently is the medium level, although I'm starting to solve those pretty quickly, so I might play more of the hard ones. But I used this last night. I played this with my daughter a few times, and I found it enjoyable to teach her the logic using this game. We played kind of a solo version of the game. Like she played, and I was like, okay, so you do this. This is because of this. Now this says the numbers are odd, but this number is also higher than that number. Therefore, it has to be this number. That's so much more interesting than a proof in geometry. But it's literally the same thing.
It teaches those connections. How did you feel about the gaming-fying of it. Because
Well,
I think that that's where its weak point is.
That's what I was going to say here. When I talked to my daughter, we played solitaire, and I played this a mess solitaire, and I've also played with other people, and I still feel like I'm playing a solitaire game. This is a solo game that you can play with other people, in my opinion. You're just trying to beat them. Like, if I play with Chris, nothing Chris says or does, I don't care. I mean, I suppose you could be like, you pick those 3 things in that number? That's a level I don't want to get involved with. I don't want to write that stuff on my sheet.
Yeah.
So for me, this is straight up a solo game that you can play with other people at the same table, but if you're someone who doesn't get this, you're going to feel dumb all the time when people beat you.
And that's what I'm getting at, is that as a solo game, I found it frustrating. As a multiplayer game, I found it frustrating, and it really does trigger to this feeling of, I just don't get this. Other people at the table get it. I don't get it. That's not a pleasant experience. It just is. And so again, I think that the design of the game is solid. I think that it's a very thoughtful production. Like just the little thing you showed, the little check mark on the side of the box, that's clever. The components, I think, I didn't have any issues with the components. I thought they were really great. I thought that it tied into this idea of where it came from, you know, the whole idea of the punch cards, that's great. But this game just didn't work for me at all. And it's frustrating because it's like I can see there's something there, but I just know that it felt more like work to me. And I just didn't get any enjoyment out of it. And if it's a game, you're trying to get some enjoyment out of it. This one isn't for me at all.
Do you have a score with that?
If we're getting into final scores, I do. Yeah. Okay. For me, it's a 4. I don't want to play it anymore. I didn't go low because it's not a fundamentally bad design. It's a bad game for me, and there are others out there. I know there are. If your brain works similar to me, you're going to have, I think, a similar situation.
I don't think you need to justify that. This is definitely a game I wouldn't recommend to everybody.
Yeah.
And you say that makes sense.
Right.
Are you at a 4?
I'm not at a 4. No, I'm giving this an 8. I really enjoy those logic puzzles, like you said, like just sitting down and doing those little like logic apps. I find that to be a lot of fun. I enjoy the process. I have some issues with the details, but that's a me issue. That's not an enjoyment issue, if that makes sense. Like there's me capability. I actually had fun playing with Chris and just kind of discussing the logic behind stuff. So the actual like take turns and see who does it the best is only okay. But I really enjoyed the like cooperative mode,
you could
so
do
to
that
speak.
anyway, right?
Like working together of saying like, I see this logic going this way. Oh, well, we might get more answers if we go this way. I enjoy that conversation. So solo, cooperatively, I think that it's tons of fun.
All right. I'm giving this game a 9. I think that this is so very fun because it speaks to the way that I like logic puzzles and everything. The multiplayer game, all it does for me is add a small degree of tension of, you know, should I guess it at the end of this round when I'm, you know, 90% certain I could do one more test, but if I don't, you know, technically put the thumbs up and say I want to guess the answer this round, then someone else might.
Well, we talked about this earlier. I call that the guess who effect, where you're down to 2 people and the other person's the other person's down to 2 people and you're down to 3. You're like, well, they're gonna guess next turn, so it is Bob.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's fine, but really, I love this as a solo puzzle. I've played this a lot of times solo. I love the aesthetic, the look of it. If I had a study, if I had a nook with a little desk with a little typewriter on it, I would have this permanently set up there. And every day, come pull out the app on my phone and do the little like daily challenge puzzle. It would make me feel so like, you know, pinky up, classy. I love.
You're not classy, Mike.
I am an unclassy cretin. That's what I am.
Yes.
Someday, Chris, we'll have that for you.
Yeah, troglodyte is
That's
what I was
right.
going.
Well,
I think he did when he went to his birthday. That's what I heard.
9 for me.
All right, well, I didn't realize you were... Okay, I'm an 8.5, but I want to give the caveat of, to me, the multiplayer solo thing doesn't mean anything. I would play it multiplayer with other people as a way of teaching them the game mostly, but I would just be like, Chris, I'd sit there and go, let's do a puzzle. Now, a couple things I want to say. I really think, again, the production of this is awesome, and they do a few clever things that I enjoyed. One is the numbering of the answer cards being in 4 different colors,
Right.
and you pick a color, and that helps me not memorize them. As dumb as that is, I would possibly be like, oh, I know that 1 is an answer to this question, because they use the same questions a lot.
They do, yeah.
And if you play back-to-back games, sometimes they use the same answers because of the way the answers are done. And I'm glad that they did that numbering thing because I'm like, okay, I'm not even gonna. You shouldn't try to memorize anyway, but I won't accidentally do it.
Exactly.
I didn't realize that that was what that was for.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
I definitely wondered why.
It does make it weird sorting them out until you get it in your head like, oh, the yellow numbers are backwards, the blues are forward, but it doesn't matter. I love everything else about it. I think it's fantastic. The only thing I don't like is I think it's awesome that you can go online and do it.
Yeah.
But that online implementation feels like it's from 15 years ago.
It needs work, and we should also point out that there's 20 puzzles that are in the box, right?
Sure. Well, you'll blow. I mean, if you like the game, you will blow through those.
Right. So just be aware that most of the replayability is going to come from that online implementation.
From the website,
Yes.
which, as of this review, I think is still work in progress.
That might be it, right?
beta.
But the one thing I did not like, they're like, you can play against a machine, and I did it, and they were like, oh, the machine got it in like one
3
round,
guesses.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
and it didn't even guess. It gave that Sherlock Holmes consulting detective thing. Where like, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I did it this speed. I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Turing Machine. Again, not for everybody, and I'm first to say that one, but if you do like deep logic, you'll really enjoy this one. So, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Chris Yi.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
And I'm Wendy Yi.
And you've been programmed to watch the Dice Tower.